You're listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, a place to learn about how to grow your business and stay ahead of the technological advances before they become mainstream. Welcome to our series, As the Gears Turn, hosted by two of Ingram Micro's SMB Alliance Council members, Devaughn Bittle and Patrick Cash.
I'm excited about this podcast.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. You know, we met these guys at Unplugged in Buffalo back in June.
Right.
Late May, early June. It's been so long since then, I can't remember the exact dates. But yeah, we're talking with Amber Gould, the Executive Director of Human Resources, and Simon Wilkins, the Director of Human Resources at Ingram Micro. Guys, just thanks so much for jumping in with us today.
Great to be here.
Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. And Simon, you might recognize his voice as the voice of Darren's mind from Unplugged, right?
Yeah. How did you get demoted to the stomach?
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, Patrick. I mean, I think they like to put me on the spot for certain things, and the stomach was better suited for me. Simon, clearly the mind was perfect for Simon.
Not at all. No, that was so much fun, and what a great insight and introduction for me too. Been at Ingram for about 3 years now, and it was my first time getting to go to an SMB event. It was such a fantastic event. So yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, it's one of our favorites for sure. So let's jump right into the conversation here. You know, many of us in the SMB community, as owners, we wear many different hats. One of those, of course, is being the HR director. None of us went to school for this. None of us probably have.
Either did I.
Perfect. And I'm at least fortunate enough that I hired an accounting person in our organization that has a lot of HR experience. So she really handles a lot of that for us. So it really does take a little bit off my plate from me having to wear that hat too often, which is really nice. But I know for others, it's not always the case. It's usually the owner in a lot of cases in SMBs where they're switching those different hats. Cash, that's the way it is for you, right?
I'm the chief executive window washer. I did promote the Roomba to chief floor operations, but yes.
Now you're the Roomba programmer now.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so, guys, let's talk about how to approach that. You know, without having that background, how HR is going to play for an owner that is just having to deal with the day-to-day operations as well.
Yeah, I can start. I mean, the cool thing for me is I came from private equity prior to coming to Ingram. So I helped and was embedded in a lot of smaller businesses. And I think the biggest thing that I recognize and realize is, you know, it's so many different things, right? It's compliance, it's the culture, it's recruiting, it's development, it's all of those hats. And there is no secret sauce, best way, one way to run your people programs, right? So what I recommend, regardless of your size, but as long as you're not an Ingram size, you definitely need to make sure that you're looking at if it's some third parties that can help you. There's a lot of those HR in a box companies that you can work with. And those are really helpful. I mean, for me, myself, I've gone to law school. I couldn't tell you if you offered me $1 million off the spot, all the different rules, laws, and regulations between all the different states. Like, there are so many and they're super complicated. And I'm in California, so we're our own world of rules and everything in between. So as smaller business try to navigate that, I mean, I think there's just a lot of job security for those in the box HR companies because it is so complicated from that piece, right? So that's like, for me, the first piece that I think, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, that keeps you up at night, right? You need to make sure you're not going to get sued. You've got to do the basic things to keep you compliant. I always joke, if you're going to be small, like under 50, stay that way, because the minute you jump over 50, like all the rules change, and there's some other like golden numbers. And then I think then the next part really comes about, you compete with bigger companies. So you're competing with talent for those bigger companies. You're competing with, right now in this crazy hiring market, to get the staffing from bigger companies. And then how do you train them? So I can tell you at Ingram, I don't hire people. I don't fire people. I don't train people. I don't onboard people. What I do is I facilitate ways to help all of our leaders do those things. So if we had 10 people or if we had 10,000 people, that's still my job. So as the CEO of your companies, don't feel like you have to own it all, because it can be a shared level of responsibility in those spaces. And I think we all know that people who are more maybe extroverted in certain areas are really good at certain types of behaviors in other areas, so that you can bring people on. I also think you need to know your biggest secret weapon is the fact right now, when you look at what really is motivating Centennials, Gen Z, a lot of millennials, it is working for smaller companies. There's a lot of feeling of community and attachment and knowing who's and where the money's going to is at so-and-so's kitchen table and their family and their roof over their head. There's a lot that you can benefit for that. So use that as a marketing tool.
That's interesting. Simon, do you have anything to add?
No, I think Amber's absolutely spot on. What I love about that too is that sort of to differentiate yourself, it's really connecting with your sense of purpose. And in a smaller business too, sometimes you have the ability to articulate that in a simpler and more straightforward way that really resonates with people. And so when you have that up your sleeve, I think that's a really great marketing tool.
Yeah, I think you just made us all us small business owners feel really good about this now. What do you think,
I know,
Patrick?
right? Because suddenly it's like, hey, it's not so bad after all.
It isn't so bad, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I thought it was great that we opened with, kind of talking about Unplug for a second. And I kind of want to go back to that event for a moment. And Amber, you just alluded to one of the things that really stuck out to me and kind of how we've always done things. And it was really hiring, not necessarily for the exact position that you're, looking to staff, but maybe looking at someone that's, a little underqualified and training that person up. And so for both of you, let's talk about that for a second and how we would be able to implement maybe a different strategy in how we're hiring today.
Yeah, Simon and I call it hiring for potential versus hiring for perfection. And so I'm super passionate about this because someone gave me a chance once. It's very difficult to get your foot in the door in HR. It just is. People are like, do you have experience? Have you transformed companies? What type of work decisions have you made? Like, it is so difficult to get into HR, but someone gave me a chance. I came from Target. I didn't have any direct skills, but I had lots of transferable skills. I think you hear this a lot with people in the military where they get blocked from getting jobs because they're like, well, you don't directly have, there's so many indirect skills. And also, there's also so many people that are just these empty slates that you can completely just create and fill and teach. And there's so much benefit to that for so many reasons. One is someone who teaches generations in the workforce. You have boomers and you have Gen X. That's kids are these centennials coming in. So they created them, they raised them, they love them, they're amazing. So utilize that relationship because boomers don't want to retire. What they want to be able to do is train and coach and mentor people. So give them that opportunity. And all generations, but specifically this new generation coming out of high school and college, they're very real and they're realists and they understand that this is a weird economy and this is a weird political time and this is just weird on so many levels. They just want a job and they want to learn. And they've gone to school not being force-fed. Someone like my generation is a millennial who's been kind of told everything that we get versus that generation hasn't. So they're just so much more pliable, I guess. And why does that help you? Because you can get new and exciting people and ideas, but people who are really, really willing to learn. And that part, I think, is indispensable. That is something small businesses, I believe, can do so much better than bigger businesses because you're not caught in the bureaucracy and all of that. This is the process and this is the rule. You can create it on the fly. That agility for you to be able to do that's huge. And Simon, you've done so many things for us at Ingram, who is big, to make us not this big crazy ship, to bring in potential versus perfection. Talk about some of that cool stuff.
Yeah, it has been a bit of a journey, like over the last 12 months in particular, because it has been such a candidate-led market or a competitive market to find people. We had to put in a fair bit of work with our hiring managers to sort of get them to open up their minds about sort of the profile. So what does good look like for somebody going into a position like this? And with the recruitment team, we would sit there and we'd say, okay, well, what are some of the adjacent skills or relevant skills or related skills that you could still pull from? So typically, somebody who might have Java skills could more easily learn Python, or somebody who's got sort of good problem solving skills could be really, transferable into a bunch of different areas. So it certainly doesn't happen overnight. And there's certain pockets where maybe you've got a job where somebody really has to have financial or legal qualification, as an example. Yeah, you can't really compromise on that at times. But in general, there's a bunch of other areas where you genuinely can. And when you start to do that, you open up such really cool talent pockets and you meet different people, and they then flow on to introduce other people for the business as well. So that's definitely been part of it. And the other thing too is also understanding that almost every opportunity in every moment is a time to network and to attract talent. So Amber's got these great stories where she'll be go out traveling and she'll be like, oh, I was in an Uber and chatted to this person and they're doing this bit of study and I gave them my business card. And, we're going to interview them late the next week. And I know that sounds sort of like funny, but it's seriously, it's as straightforward as that. And it's something that if we all have that kind of owner's mindset on at different times, you'll be surprised at the people that you meet and the opportunities you can create. So, there's just a couple of examples that come to mind.
Well, and Amber, you really hit the, kind of the front end of that. You were talking about somebody gave you a chance. And, IT translates the same way. And I think a lot of positions to a certain degree really do. It's hard to get the job because you don't have the experience, and you can't get the experience because nobody will give you the job. And our most recent hire, was studying for Net Plus. And, just responded to an ad that we had out, and, we had a good conversation. And it was just, like you said, you reach those other tangible skills and you can kind of see the potential. And I liken it to like, I don't have to break somebody else's bad habits. I can teach them my own. And it's been a great fit. And so, giving that opportunity sometimes really is all that it takes to open the door to a lot of other opportunity.
Yeah, and it feels good for us as well to do that. I mean, there's a lot of good feedback that we get from those employees. So I'm totally will buy into that as well. I mean, we do a lot of that as well.
Well, Simon hit on something about opening doors to people you don't know, right? So the reality is women typically, statistically, you could Google it, don't apply for jobs unless they have it's high. It's like 70% of whatever's written on the job ad. Where men, not to make fun of you, but hey, I can read the job ad. I'm going to apply for the job. So because of that, you don't get.
Sounds about right, Amber. Actually,
that's how this started.
Well, you don't get this. You don't get a talent pool, right? Or let's talk about education. So I have lots of diplomas, and I've been very fortunate and understand that luxury for that. But let me tell you, it is a huge, huge disadvantage to your company if everybody needs to have a piece of paper. Why? Because not everyone needs a piece of paper. You can train that piece of paper, and hey, maybe you could be this awesome employer over time because you're hiring all these kick-ass people that are bringing you in more business and huge margins, and you could pay for them to go to school. That shouldn't always be a deal breaker. Now, listen, I want the person doing brain surgery on me to have gone to college, but 90% of what I think we do probably doesn't need that right away. And you can offer that as just a perk. And then that gets you a whole nother subset of people that you might not have thought about. And, a tricky conversation then goes into this hybrid remote work, right? So depending how flexible you are and where you're going to hire people, that gives you another opportunity to really open up your mind to who you bring on your teams.
It's made me actually take a different look for my own kids as far as how important is college for them. Like, maybe one it is, maybe one it's really not. It depends on what direction they want to go in, and all of that's okay. And we're really from a generation where we were kind of told, like, you got to go to college if you want to be successful. But I don't believe that is true, now that I'm older and look back at it all, right? But Amber, one of the things we discussed when we were preparing for the podcast was how to humanize HR. Can you elaborate on what that means for our listeners?
Yeah, I know the listeners can't see Simon, but Simon probably have a lot of 2 cents about me and HR. So one, how many HRs are on these types of podcasts, right? I said, I pride myself on understanding how we make money. And we are a services organization who builds businesses, right? So the people that we hire, they need to have a level of customer service that helps you, our partners. So my customer is the employee. I don't have a job. I'm not doing my job if my customer is not happy. So yes, I need to make sure we're not sued. Yes, I need to make sure people aren't doing things illegally. No, I don't care if you don't like me because I'm not going to let you slap someone's tushy, right? Like that stuff I'm okay with. But at the end of the day, it's important to me to work for places and to create spaces where HR isn't the police. My job is not to be the police. My job is to help you build your business. And I help you build your business by hiring the best talent. I help you build your business by telling you when your baby's ugly. I help you build your business when I realize you've been wearing the same clothes for a million years and that's not innovative or cool or different. And you should probably do those things that are innovative and cool and different. Hopefully, as your businesses get bigger or as you bring in HR people, you don't want someone that is a yes person. You want someone who's going to make you feel uncomfortable and push you to think differently, because true HR people, the only motivation we have is making everyone on the team better. And I fundamentally believe that. It's to Simon's point, I handwrite cards, I call people, I ask questions. I want to know how they make money. I want to know what drives them. I want to talk to our partners and our vendors, because if I know what you want and I know what our vendor needs, guess what? I can then come back and make sure I'm hiring people that you need and you want. And so I think that is a differentiator for Ingram personally, because this company, our HR team is in it. They're in it with partners and vendors, and we're in it because I know that you're the end customer. And so my customer needs to be able to serve you. And I really work hard to draw that line so people understand how that connects.
Yeah, Amber's been amazing actually. And I just reflect on the last couple of years and being in the team. It's been amazing because a lot of people think of HR and they just think like hiring and firing. And yet based on a lot of the stuff that Amber's done and that we do at work, it's things like, it'll sound kind of funny, but HR happy hours. It's where we actually deliberately carve out time to connect with the business and share information and hear from them in an informal way that sort of takes off the pressure of, oh, I've got to talk about something serious. So it's like, no, everybody will know who your name is. Everybody will know who to go to if they've got a question. Everybody knows that, oh, wow, something weird popped up and I need help. They know who they can reach out to. So it's really building those connections. And you could be a company of 50 people or 500 people. And that power of connection is the same in no matter what size it is. So investing time to do that, making sure, don't sit in your cubicle or in your office and be sort of locked off from this. You've got to be out there and be very much connected and embedded. That's definitely one of the sort of the key tenets about how you sort of personalize it and make it a bit fun too. It can get a bit serious sometimes.
Well, we keep hitting on some of the same topics and kind of advancing through some of the other questions that we were going to talk about today. The comment, as you talked about the generationals, you've got your boomers and your Genners and your Xers and millennials and the subset that, the many that will come after that. Us as SMBs kind of have this mindset, we're small and I can't necessarily, equate to what, a larger business with an HR department and everything else can do. However, I think the flip of that, and both of you have kind of mentioned it, is there's a draw from an employee standpoint that goes, well, I would rather work for somebody that's a little bit smaller because maybe I have the opportunity to impact differently or, make a change, whether it's in the business or in the community. And I think that's a passion and kind of a mark point for both of you. So Simon, I'll start with you. Talk about, what you're seeing in those conversations with us as partners and how that's applicable.
Yeah, I think the point you made about the influence that you can have in a smaller business is really powerful. And so whilst me and my team, we're definitely involved in how we hire, we also do get feedback similarly about why do sometimes people leave us, in particular when they do leave to join a smaller business. And a lot of what we hear is sort of what you touched on. It's that ability to sort of have broader scope, wrap your arms around things more end to end, feeling like you have influence in a slightly different way and in a different scope. And that is a real feature and that is a real, advantage that could be marketable quite well. So that's, one of the things, I guess, in particular that we sort of listen for is, what are the core drivers and motivations that people have? We look for those things as a big company, but really any company can and should be doing that to sort of understand, what is it that our people are looking for and how can we better show people, here's what you can get from being with us. Yeah, that's, I guess, some of the things that come to mind.
Just to play off of that, something I would suggest all of you do, and I did this with one of the SMB events that Darren had put on with a group of partners, and I asked them, why does someone want to work for you? Don't tell me it's because you make 1,000 widgets. Why do I want to work for you? Because at the end of the day, people just want connection. And mostly with COVID, I genuinely believe that we've reevaluated what's important to us, and it's people and purpose, right? And so with Ingram being so big, doing so many things, we've had to be really mindful to be able to say, well, what is it that I do every day that helps? So for me, what wakes me up every day is I know that we have 37,000 partners of all different sizes, most of who are SMB, who hire probably, right, hundreds of thousands of people together. And all of those families get food on their table because of an ecosystem of economy. And that's pretty cool to know that I get to impact that every single day, on top of a lot of other things. But what I suggest is ask your people, why do you work here? That's your biggest marketing. It's not a commercial. It's not your stars or ratings, your people. And they are your best advertisement, because when people apply for jobs, they're interviewing you as much as you're interviewing them. And don't think they don't scour LinkedIn to find people who work at your company or who have left your company to say, was it a mess? Was it as cool as it says it is? Is this really a cool boss? Is this owner crazy? And whatever those things are, because that's what they do. That's what people do. All generations do that. So my 2 cents is, if you get anything out of this, takeaway is step back and ask your people, why do you work here?
Okay, that's good. I'm going to take that and attempt that question with my employees, and I'll report back to you guys. Hopefully it's good news. So what can hiring managers, now we've hired a new employee as an SMB, what can hiring managers and employers do to make a new hire feel welcome at a company?
Oh man, that's a good one. That's something that, there's a lot of people who sell very expensive packages and onboarding tools and all this kind of stuff. But there are some basic things you can do that don't cost any money. And one of the things that we've noticed is the most successful is that from the moment that you first secure that person and they say yes and they sign on the dotted line, reach out to them even before day one. And it can be you, it can be your team. We actually at Ingram, we have a process now where we send out a note to the receiving team and we say, hey, person X is just joining and they're going to be joining in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Reach out to them and say hello. And I personally experienced that when I was first recruited to Ingram, and it was amazing. It's the first time I've ever had it where I sat there, I was like excited, I've signed this new contract or employment offer. And then I had all these LinkedIn messages from these people I hadn't even met yet. And they said, oh, we're so excited to meet you. Congratulations. Welcome to the team. And it seriously made such a big difference. And the reason why I share that is because because it has been such a competitive market, many of you, I'm guessing, probably have had the experience of, we found the perfect person, we've made them the offer, and then, somebody else made them an offer, and now they pulled out or they ghost right before they start. And so doing something like reaching out before day one is such a simple, no-cost thing that helps make somebody sticky to your offer and make them really get a sense of who you are as a business too and personalize things. So definitely that's something I would recommend that doesn't cost anything and can have a pretty good impact. It sort of paves the way for a really smooth onboarding process.
Yeah, I think Simon hit the nail on the head. It's all about the human connection. Mostly in all of your businesses, you want people who are going to connect with your customers. So treat them the same way as how you connect with them. And to Simon's point, we did put this in play in our business because it sounds so simple, yet people don't do it. And we don't have fancy tools. We created an Excel checklist, like do these things, call them, send them a note, check how they're doing. Little things like I like to know for my team personally, like what do you like to eat? What do you not like to eat? Tell me about your kids. Every single message that goes out for a new hire that I have responsibilities for, or within my team, I make them give me personal pictures. I want to humanize people to each other. What do you like to do? And it just comes back to it's those little things that are key differentiators that big companies sometimes forget about, that littler or smaller business sized headcount probably do the best, because all of those ideas I did not make up. I stole from companies that I'd been part of buying and thought, man, that's a really cool idea. Why didn't we do that? Because it's so real. It's just so human.
Well, and we've talked a lot, different like tips and tricks and thoughts, whether it's, the question of why do you work here, or, that purpose-driven question of, wanting to feel like you belong, the family aspect or the community aspect. You're passionate about, HR is not the people police, we're actually here to help. Do you guys have any other kind of thoughts, nuggets of wisdom, I guess, that you would want to include in the discussion today?
Because the people listening work with, our amazing team at Ingram, as you have business challenges, maybe hiring or training, developing new skill sets, everybody has those problems. You have those same problems. So you're in an ecosystem, and the reason you join the alliances and the groups that we have here is because it is a brain trust. And our leaders who run these brain trusts bring in people from finance and people from HR and all of the areas that maybe you don't think about as we think about doing business with a big company like Ingram. And I do think that's our differentiator that I want everyone listening to think through, is when you're part of something like the SMB Alliance, you do get a Simon and a me who show up and we'll talk about and brainstorm, because nothing is secret, in my opinion. We all are with the same challenges. It's just at different scales and levels. And so use each other to brainstorm, use each other to talk through, to best practice share, and also don't beat yourself up, because you're never going to be perfect for everybody. And sometimes I do think we forget that, because everyone has an opinion and everyone has an emotion. And it's always about continuously improving your companies and yourselves and your teams. But having a little grace as you're doing all those things is really important, because it is easy. Mostly if you're a business owner, you're probably type A and you're intense, and it's always about like that next big thing. And so it's what's not going right. There's a lot that you should just take a step back and look at what's going right, and then be honest to what's not. And all of it the chips will fall. They'll fall into a great place.
Amber, I'm gonna have to call you every week, because I feel so much better about my week now after this conversation on this podcast about HR. So, this has been a really good podcast. But before we wrap up, I have one question I want to ask both of you. It's a little off topic from HR, and it's a question that if you listen to our podcast, you hear we ask on every podcast. But I'd like to get the perspective from you guys on where you guys see technology going in the next year. Simon, we'll start with you.
Oh, wow. Man, interesting question. I think over the next 12 months, there is going to be, I think it'll continue to be a really competitive environment, and that I think the ability to sort of like see the bigger picture and weather through the storm or of any potential sort of, market ups and downs that can happen from time to time. I think for the next 12 months in particular, it's having that longer term view, I guess. Yeah.
I think for me, as technology touches everything. So if you have a career or an aspiration or a business that is in technology, the world is your oyster. And like all things, continue to be agile and adapt and roll with it, and don't get stuck, because technology changes by the day. And it's an entire generation coming up that doesn't know anything other than. So you have a market that is untapped and primed for whatever your business does in whatever realm of technology you're in. And I think that's why I'm so thankful and grateful to work in this industry, because it's so agnostic to so many different things. And the next 12 months, I think it's only going to be better.
Well, Amber, Simon, thank you guys both so much. I mean, we've covered a lot in a very condensed, there's so much more that we could talk about, but as IT people, we have the attention span of squirrels. And so, where can folks learn a little bit more about you guys, maybe find you, connect online, or get an invite to the HR Happy Hour? Because I want to get on that list.
You can find me on LinkedIn if you're listening to this and you're not part of any of our communities, talk with your sales team, talk with Darren Gottesman, Kelly Sanders, because they are amazing, graceful customers of mine and invite me to lots of different things. And, we're happy to connect. We're here to help build our company, which is here to build your company. So, yeah.
Yep, similar to Amber too. More than happy to connect on LinkedIn and looking forward to hopefully seeing some of you at an upcoming event.
Thank you, Amber. Thanks, Simon. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of B2B Tech Talks as the Gears Turn edition. You can access this episode and many others directly from the Xvantage website.
You've been listening to As the Gears Turn, a series brought to you by B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. This episode was sponsored by Ingram Micro's SMB Alliance. B2B Tech Talk is a joint production between Sweetfish Media and Ingram Micro.